They said it lightly, the way people do when they want a decision to feel mutual even when it isn't. Scaling it back this year. No kids. My cousin said it with a shrug through the phone, already moving on to parking, and who was bringing wine. I said nothing. Silence can sound like agreement if you let it. After the call, I stood in the kitchen and counted the ways this would simplify things. No babysitter. No meltdown over tights. No driving home late with a sleeping child slumped sideways in the back seat. I told myself it was considerate. I told myself I was relieved. I still wrapped the gifts. That part was muscle memory. I had bought them weeks earlier, before the rule existed, something custom, something that took time, something you don't impulse buy. It sat in the hall closet, heavy and precise, the receipt folded small in my wallet. I told myself I could return it. I told myself it didn't matter. The video arrived mid-afternoon, while I was cutting apples for my daughter. My phone buzzed against the counter. I glanced down, saw my cousin's name, a tag. The thumbnail showed a chandelier and the blur of movement beneath it. I didn't open it right away. I washed my hands. I handed over the apple slices. My daughter took one bite and asked if we were still going to Grandma's later. I said not this year. She nodded, accepting it with the seriousness of someone who trusts that adults make sense even when the world doesn't. Then I watched. The camera panned from the fireplace to the tree, past piles of wrapping paper already torn open. There were children everywhere, some I recognized, some I didn't. Toddlers darting between knees. A teenager I knew lived next door leaning against the wall with a soda. Someone laughed off camera and said, "Cheerful the little ones." Before the sound cut. I watched it twice, because the first time my brain kept insisting I'd misunderstood the scale of it. The second time I counted. I shouldn't have, but I did. My daughter was behind me when I finished. She'd padded into the kitchen without a sound. She asked why there were kids at Grandma's house if there were no kids this year. I told her it was complicated. She stared at the phone, then at me, then her face collapsed in that specific, betrayed way that belongs to children who are old enough to notice patterns, but not old enough to understand cruelty dressed as convenience. She didn't scream. That would have been easier. She just cried, quiet, confused tears that made me feel late to something important. I didn't call anyone. I didn't comment on the video. I went to the closet and pulled out the box. It was heavier than I remembered. I set it on the table, took a picture of and opened, the shipping label still clean. Then I typed. Dropping these at Goodwill. I didn't add a period. I didn't add a face. I sent it to the family group chat and put the phone face down. For a while, nothing happened. I made dinner. My daughter ate without appetite. I told her we could watch a movie later, and she nodded, already tired from feeling too much. The house settled into its evening sounds, the hum of the fridge, the low tick of the clock. At 47 minutes, a car pulled into the driveway. I recognized the engine before I saw the headlights. My father doesn't announce himself, he arrives. He knocked once, sharp. The way he does when he wants the door opened immediately. And also known that he shouldn't have had to knock at all. I opened it. He was red-faced, coat still on. Keys clenched in his hand like punctuation. He didn't look at me at first. He looked past me, as expecting to see the mess of a scene he'd come prepared to manage. Instead, there was just the hallway, the box on the table. The quiet. "What is this?" he said finally, holding up his phone like evidence. "It's exactly what it says," I said. My voice surprised me by being steady. "I'm donating the gifts," he said. "Not like this." "Like what?" "But making a spectacle." I glanced at the phone in his hand. "I didn't post a video." He opened his mouth, then closed it. This was the moment, the unmistakable shift. Authority had arrived expecting chaos and found order. He recalibrated visibly, like someone realizing the argument they practiced no longer applies. "It was miscommunicated," he said. "There was confusion. There were teenagers," I said. "I didn't raise my voice, I didn't need to. From next door." He rubbed his forehead. "They stopped by. They stayed," I said. We stood there, the air thick thing he wanted me to smooth over for him. Behind me, my daughter's bedroom door was closed. I was grateful for that. Some lessons shouldn't be witnessed up close. "You should have called me," he said, softer now. "I didn't want an explanation," I said. "I wanted to opt out." "That hurts people," he said automatically. "So does being excluded," I said. Especially when you find out you were the only one. He looked at the box again. I saw the calculation pass across his face, not emotional, logistical. How this would look, how it would land, how quickly it would spread. You can't just withdraw, he said. We're a family. I can. I just did. He sighed long and tired. What do you want? I thought about that. About how often that question is used as a trap. I shook my head. I don't want anything. That seemed to unsettle him more than anger would have. He waited for a demand. A condition he could negotiate. When none came, his shoulders dropped a fraction. I'll tell them, he said. This won't happen again. I believed him in the narrow sense that this exact configuration of dismissal wouldn't repeat. I also knew the larger pattern would continue in other shapes. I nodded anyway. Okay, I said. He lingered, then turned back toward the door. You coming later? He asked, habit tugging at him. No, I said. We're staying home. He left without another word. I didn't take the gifts to Goodwill that night. I didn't rush to do anything. The next morning, I returned them quietly. The refund hit my account 2 days later. Clean and unremarkable. My daughter and I watched the movie. She fell asleep halfway through, her head heavy on my shoulder. As I carried her to bed, she stirred and asked, half asleep, if she'd done something wrong. No, I said, without hesitation. You didn't. That was the only victory there was. Not celebration, not apology tours. Just the small, necessary act of standing where I could say that and mean it.